Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that I hear from my clients that seem to be pretty common. And today we're going to talk about why sugar might be the thing that might make you sick. So really great topic today. Has a lot to do with what's going on in the world right now in a couple of different ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but also, you know, if you haven't heard, sugar is not really good for you. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm outside today. I'm super happy about that. It is absolutely gorgeous. I'm in my backyard. The backyard is not so pretty, so I'm not going to really show you what it looks like. It is a work in progress if you've been following my Insta stories and things like that. But it's getting there. I also spent some time sealing those barrels that we've been working on. So I'm happy to be outdoors. It's wonderful. Summer's almost here. All right, so let's talk about this because it's really important and I find it really very interesting. Now, put myself in a little bit of a soapbox for just a second, but I really feel like one of the biggest issues that we're having with the pandemic is because we have such a great amount of high-risk people. And what happens with that, and I get it, part of it is, you know, the elderly, I know their immune systems tend to not be as good, and so that's been a big problem. But they are now considering overweight and obese to be a risk factor along with type 2 diabetes, which were, well, actually both types, but, you know, type 2 is one of them that technically is curable and preventable. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but we're going to talk about why sugar is such a problem. And I remember the first time that somebody told me that they had cut sugar out of their diet, and I was like, well, why would you do that? Sugar doesn't make you fat. Yeah, actually it does. I just didn't understand the biology of it at the time, and I've had to educate myself greatly on that. You know, we went through a big time in the 90s where it was like everything was low fat because fat causes fat, which is technically kind of not true. Insulin causes fat, but we're going to talk a little bit about that and answer any questions that you have on that. Now, there's some really great podcasts and YouTube videos out there by some really knowledgeable people. I'm going to talk a little bit about Dr. Mark Hyman today. I listen to him quite a bit. He has the YouTube channel, talks a lot about, I want to say it's called like Doctor's Pharmacy, but it's F-A-R-M. He talks a lot about how food can be both healing, but it can also cause disease. So, you know, food can be medicine, but you have to be eating the right things. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So we're going to talk about, first of all, I think it is incredibly sad that it's taking an entire pandemic to actually make people stop and take a look at their health. You know, if you look at the rise of metabolic diseases in the last 20 plus years, it's been incredibly disturbing. And so, you know, unfortunately, it takes something like this to make people stop and go, what's going on? What can I do? What can I do for my self-care? What can I do for my own health to increase my, not just my ability to avoid disease, but to avoid the situation that we're having now. And I think it's Mother Nature's wake-up call. She's kind of going, look, you know, you don't wash your hands and you don't eat right. So we're just going to let this happen. So I'm hoping that throughout this we can understand and learn that this is a really important thing that we should get on board with. And I really think that there's not enough focus on nutrition when it comes to taking care of yourself, being healthy. I mean, if you look at the standard American diet, it's just garbage. There's no nutrient value to it. It's a lot of calories, and your body just doesn't know what to do with it, so it stores it as fat. And that's oversimplifying it, but that's exactly what happens. So let's talk about what the problem is with sugar. So part of the problem is that sugar can actually suppress your immune system. Now if you go and do some research, there's a little more to it. It's like it says, kind of oversimplifying it, but it can actually suppress your immune system for up to about 5 hours after you ingest sugar. Now it depends on the amount, and it kind of depends on what it's coming from. There's a big difference between eating, say, berries or apples or something that's fruit and natural. The sugars, although they're simple sugars, the fiber, the nutrients, and the vitamins in it slow down the absorption rate of the sugars into your bloodstream. However, a Pop-Tart, even though it is enriched with vitamins, which it's synthetic and it's all garbage, but it's still processed and it's going to break down into your system extremely quickly, and it's going to end up as sugar in your bloodstream really fast. So your body's having to deal with that. Meanwhile, your immune system is kind of being suppressed because your body's trying to take care of the toxic sugar that's running through your bloodstream and deal with it. So remember that plus you cannot lose fat in the presence of 3 things. Number 1, insulin, which is caused by eating sugar. And we'll talk about what is all included in that in a minute, because some people are like, well, I don't eat sugar. I'm like, you eat bread, cereal, you do eat sugar. Cortisol, which a lot of us, of course, even with this, you know, I'm sure cortisol's on the rise. We're all a little stressed out. Even those of us that know kind of are being fairly healthy and all the way around, including mentally and emotionally. Still difficult days, I'm not gonna lie. But also alcohol, which of course a lot of people right now are imbibing just to be able to relax and deal with the situation. So unfortunately, the comfort food and the alcohol, which is what a lot of people are reaching for, is causing a serious issue, because it's interesting to me that that's the first thing we reach for, but yet it's the one thing that can actually make us susceptible to getting sick. So I find, I don't know that we're educated enough on that. There's not enough taught in high school. We get like one semester of health, and it's not a whole lot of information. It covers a broad range of topics. And it took me, it's been almost a decade worth of learning for me to get to this point. When I first started as a personal trainer, my certification just didn't give me much information. So I kind of went on to do some certification in nutrition. And to me, that wasn't enough information. It still was really broad. And throughout my education and learning and reading, because I read a lot, I'm a huge nerd if you don't know. I've learned that even a lot of the information that's out there is incorrect. So you really have to do your due diligence and know what you're talking about. And that's very interesting to me. So keep that in mind. But the other thing is that when you eat like sugar or processed food, really unhealthy or ultra processed food, which is a thing these days, right? That means it's literally so processed. It takes no time getting through your system, and it just spikes your blood sugar ridiculously. But when you eat that kind of food, you're not making room for the more nutrient dense food. And so therefore your body does not function efficiently. You're not getting enough of the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that actually help your body be healthy. Way back in the 1800s, they had issues with people not getting enough certain nutrients, and they were having major issues with illnesses associated with that. You would think in a first world country, that should be only a third world country thing, right? And yes, that does still happen, but in this day and age, we should have no issues with that. But yet we have more people malnutritioned in this country. Think about it. I mean, if you really think about it, this makes sense. Anybody who is obese is absolutely 100% malnutritioned. Their body takes what they eat, which is usually highly processed food, it shoves it into fat, and then they're starving again because they're not giving their body the nutrients, the actual nutrients that it needs. And the enriched... Okay, sorry, we're just having some technical issues there. Okay, now I just got to get my train of thought for a second here. I kind of did some things. So when your body isn't getting enough of the right nutrients, your immune system doesn't work. And there's a lot of information and education on your microbiome, which is a good portion of your immune system. And so when we're not eating the right foods and we're getting all sorts of issues dealing with the digestive system, especially the inflammation of the digestive system, things like irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, your microbiome is off. You're not able to absorb those nutrients that you need, and thereby you're having issues all over the place. So again, there's a lot involved in that, but if you just take 2 steps back and look at the nutrition that you're eating and try to cut out the sugar, which again, we're going to still talk about this, and eat healthier, densely nutrient foods. I probably said that wrong. That's okay. You're going to have a better microbiome, which will benefit you greatly. And again, topic for another day, but just understand that is a big part of keeping your immune system healthy and ready to go. Number 2, sugar also is, of course, the cause of a lot of metabolic issues. And like I said at the beginning, those that are dealing with diabetes, pre-diabetes, being overweight and obese is now a risk factor, because of course your body's dealing with so much inflammation and what's going on, that the metabolic part of it. Here's some interesting statistics. I was listening to Dr. Mark Hyman. Again, I mentioned him earlier. He's got the YouTube channel, and again, I believe it's like the Food Pharmacy, which FARM. Really, really great. You can listen to him. He's got a lot of interesting information. He's even doing a lot of information right now about the coronavirus. So if you hop on there and listen to some of his stuff, he's got some really incredibly smart, intelligent, and people that know what they're talking about, giving some good advice. So that's a really good one. But he talks about that only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. 12%. That means 88% of us are not metabolically healthy, and that is a problem, and I find that unacceptable. And if you listen to him further, he talks about how 75% of Americans are overweight. 75%, again, unacceptable. And 42% are obese. I am not okay with that situation. I have my own theories as to how that's happening, but we do have to take responsibility for our education and for what we are doing to our bodies. You only get one, and you are the one in charge of making sure that you get the right nourishment. So keep that in mind, because again, those that are overweight and obese are at high risk at this point for not just, and again, it's not getting the virus itself. It's if you do get it, being able to overcome the situation and not have difficulties and be put in the hospital. So again, you got to decide what it's worth. I think it's, again, sad that we've come to a point where you have to be scared of dying in order to make nutritional changes in your life and healthy lifestyle and self-care. So hopefully we get that. He also talked about that 1 in 2 Americans is diabetic or pre-diabetic, and again, unacceptable. That's 50% of the population. Not okay with that. So, if you think about those that were the age groups that we're seeing COVID-19, it is the elderly, obviously, because their immune system is compromised. As we get older, and of course, what you've done for the first 60, 70 years of your life will make a difference in that as well. But your body slows down, it doesn't work as efficiently, and that's why we're not seeing it as much in younger age groups like children, because their immune system is much healthier and is able to ward off a lot of this stuff. So, however, if you think about the fact they're now showing a little bit younger adults, like in their 40s and things like that, are actually susceptible to not just the virus, but having complications. But if you look a little further, a lot of them have some former issues, and a good portion of them are overweight or obese. And so that scares me because, again, I'm looking at what's going on and I'm scared for people. So keep that in mind, that is becoming a problem. But not only that, these days we're actually seeing children that are pre-diabetic and diabetic, and that is not okay. Kids should not be overweight and obese. That is through, gonna be mad at me, parenting, and also what the parents eat, what the mother's eaten while she was pregnant. That has a huge that makes a difference. It makes a difference in the child's life. So unfortunately, some of those kids that are starting to have issues, it's because of the fact that they're having metabolic issues on top of that. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to get you to make better choices at this point. Take what's going on and just make some better choices. You need to take care of you. The other thing that I found really interesting, and one of my friends sent me an article today after having a discussion about sugar, that sugar actually can cause depression as well. And, we already have within our country a huge surge of issues of anxiety and depression. And yet most of us are just leaning on comfort food, which has a lot of unhealthy fats, because there's a difference, healthy fats, unhealthy fats, and sugar. Those two combined, unhealthy fats and sugar, are a huge problem. Call it the devil, call it whatever you want. But unfortunately, overconsumption of sugar, which is pretty easy to do in this day and age, can cause imbalances in certain brain chemicals that increase the chances of depression and anxiety. And if you think about it, sugar actually lights up the same part of the brain as dopamine, so we actually crave it. And if you think, I heard somebody once say, no, sugar doesn't, it's not addictive. Like, hell it isn't. Anybody who's actually tried to go cold turkey with any sort of sugar knows there are intense withdrawal symptoms from trying to get rid of sugar. Headaches, fatigue, brain fog, just being sluggish. Like, I've been through it a couple of times, so I know. So that not only is it addictive, but it's actually, because it's so closely related to addiction and other disorders, that it does play a role similar to cocaine. So unfortunately, it can cause, that mood roller coaster, and it definitely can cause some anxiety when it comes to your brain chemistry. So tips. Okay, so here's a big part of it. I think part of it is that we don't realize how much sugar we're eating. If you don't know how to read, I'm not talking about just the nutrition label. I'm talking about the ingredient label down below when you're eating foods. First of all, if it has a label, it's probably not your best bet to start with. Anything that's healthy, whole, good for you is probably not going to have a label because it's pretty simple. But you do need to learn to read the ingredient list there, because if anything ending in ose, number one is sugar, and they like to hide the different sugars in there. There's some little tricks that they play in order to downplay how much sugar is included. And so if you don't know what you're looking for, sometimes you just don't know. The other thing is, some people don't realize that certain carbohydrates actually turn to sugar immediately in your bloodstream, including bread, pastries, cereal. I used to think cereal was healthy as a kid. Maybe not the sugar-filled ones, right? Like Lucky Charms, but like Cheerios are healthy, right? No, you guys are processed food. It breaks down into sugar in your system. Ketchup, salad dressings, mayo. You would be floored at how much sugar is in just regular foods that are even savory, and you don't realize that there's sugar in them. So you need to learn to read the labels and be aware of what's going on. If you aren't currently tracking your food, and there's like, I love my MyFitnessPal because it's free, but there's a little portion on the side. If you know how to turn your phone on the side, or if you're using the computer and you look at the very end, it tracks your sugar for you. Now, not all sugar technically is the same, but yes, it is. Your body treats it the same, but remember we talked about when it comes in natural foods, like fruits, and there's even a tiny bit in vegetables, it's negligible, but your body doesn't treat it the same because all of the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber slows the absorption rate of the sugars to your bloodstream. So way different situation there. But if you're eating multiple things that have, I mean, think about it, chips, crackers, we're not even talking about all the things we know has sugar, cookies, donuts, ice cream, so again, most of us are getting way more sugar than we really need. So you really need to learn to read some of those. I think it's interesting, hi Leanna. I think it's interesting even now how many people I'm watching go through the drive-thru at Starbucks, and I know you're not all getting Americanos, so I don't know what you're putting in there, but if you are drinking 34 grams of sugar or 50 grams of sugar, you have a problem and you need to think about it. So again, that can be a problem. It's definitely best to cut out all processed sugar. It's just not good for you. Even the World Health Organization has come back and said, less than 25 grams of added sugar a day. But I'm going to take that even lower than that. I don't think you should have any added sugar a day if you really want to live your best life. Now, I'm not saying you can never do it. The problem is saying I'm just going to eat a little bit of added sugar is kind of like, and it's okay, is kind of like saying I'm just going to have a little bit of cocaine and it's okay. Like, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So, think about what it's doing to your body. If you kind of think of it as kind of cooking your body from the inside, kind of a gross thought process, but it might stop you from actually going, hey, the Hostess Twinkie sounds amazing and I'm really depressed because I don't like what's going on in the world, so I'm going to eat a Twinkie and I'm going to sit in here and watch thousands of hours of Netflix. Not a good idea, you guys. We're going to come out the other end of this, and some people are going to be resilient and feel great and be able to jump right back into life. And some of us are going to really struggle because we just kind of gave up on life. And if you have a problem and need to talk, call me because I'm willing. I don't want you to get through this in that kind of a situation. So definitely cut out as much as you possibly can. So you want to be eating clean, whole, unprocessed food, be getting some proteins in there. I'm not even saying they have to be super lean. They just need to be healthy, grass-fed, not include nitrates and nitrites because that's a preservative. It's carcinogenic. Eat lots and lots of green. I don't care if you don't like vegetables. Again, just think about, I could die. Maybe I should eat vegetables. I mean, it's not, come on, like, seriously, let's get with the program here. I really feel like people need to have some common sense and really think about what the trade-off is and whether that's worth it. Yeah. Adrian says 1 Twinkie turns into 20. Yeah, it's not even Twinkies for me. That's the problem like that. It's M&Ms. And so I don't bring them home because, yeah, those caramel ones are crack. Can't have those at my house. So I just don't bring them home. So hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying when it comes to, and I'm not just talking about sugar itself, but I'm talking about processed food and how unhealthy it is for you. It is empty calories. It has no nutritional value whatsoever. It's not benefiting you. It's not supporting you. It's not, it might give you 2 seconds of energy and then you're going to drop because that's what it does. You're on the sugar roller coaster. I love when my stupid Wi-Fi just doesn't work. So I apologize again. I have to work with that. I think too many kids are on the video situation in my house. So again, just do better for yourself right now. Take care of yourself. It's going to take all of us taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other to get through this. And we want that to happen as quickly as possible so we can get back to our real lives. And not that this isn't real life, but yeah, I know how you're all feeling. This isn't exactly fun. So I love you all. Please take care of yourselves. If you have any questions or need to talk, please DM me. I would love to talk. I'll answer everybody. So have an incredible night, you guys. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well, my friends.